Good evening. Welcome to Health is Wealth. This show is brought to you by the Chicago chapter of the National Black Nurses Association. I am Bernetta Pearson, your host for today. On the phones is Miss Janice Henry, who is our she's going to take turns with me. As a matter of fact, last month she was here hosting, and that really felt good. I was on the board. And my guest this evening is going to introduce herself to us, and you can look right in that screen there, and tell us who you are and a little bit about what's going on with you, because the audience, and I don't know if you've ever watched us before, but the people out here who are looking at us now, they tune into the different not-for-profit programs here, and we all come to give as much information as we can to the public because we know that knowledge is power. So I can introduce her as Miss Jolie Holloman. And she is with the Westside HIV/AIDS Regional Planning Council. Now I have to say that people have been pretty quiet about HIV lately. You don't hear a lot. I mean, there's so many things going on, and they're all vying for attention, our attention, and our knowledge. So HIV is one that has kind of slipped off the radar a little bit. So I think we're going to count on you to tell us what is happening now, what we need to do, what else can we find out to spread to other people, because there are a lot of non-profit groups that tune in also. The number to call is on your screen, 312-738-1000. No, 1060 on my glasses. Okay, all right. Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, it's so
nice
good
to meet you.
It is. You know what? This is really, I encourage groups. I love Chicago Cable Access. And I always try to encourage not-for-profit groups. If you're looking at this program and you do have a not-for-profit group, check into Chicago Cable Access. Find out what you need to do. This is a very good venue for not-for-profit groups to come and share your knowledge with our public, which ranges across the Chicago area. So that's great. So I'm going to shut up. I have a habit. But now we want to know, our listeners here, what is going on with HIV/AIDS now?
Well, there's a lot going on. A lot of people talk about what's happening in Chicago, and we actually have done a lot better. The way that most providers and service providers talk about HIV, they talk about the cascade of care. And the cascade of care is how many people know that they're HIV positive out of all those that are positive? How many people of those who know that they're positive are linked to care? How many from those who are linked to care are retained in care? And then how many of those retained in care are virally suppressed, meaning that they've gotten on antiretrovirals and they're consistently taking their medication. And when we look at the cascade of care in Chicago versus the U.S., we're actually doing fairly well. However, when you break that demographically, break it down to look at what groups are maybe not doing so well, unfortunately, African Americans, especially African American MSM, have in Chicago actually increased in prevalence, whereas most of Chicagoland is decreasing in prevalence of HIV. So that is an area that I think we need to address. And I think that for those who are watching, one of the things that you can do, and that means anyone, is to start talking about it.
Yeah, because we're not talking about it anymore. Other things have sort of moved it off the radar. Where breast cancer is always, I have to give it to those ladies and those men. They keep themselves on the forefront. I'll venture to think that there's probably not a person in Chicago that does not know about breast cancer. What I've been trying to push is that there are other kinds of cancer that women need to be aware of. Right now there's a big suit against Johnson & Johnson about the talcum powder and its relevance to cancer. So they're always in the news. Christmas, the buildings downtown are lit up in pink. I mean, they're out there. Football players. The only time I see them wearing pink and not feeling like they're a lady. And so that's great. But it's kind of the other ones like HIV, everybody's still having sex. But nobody's talking about it anymore. So
to your
let's
point,
get back on track.
To your point, that's actually one of the, and that's why I say the best thing you can do is talk about it, because what's happening is, especially in our communities, we're not talking about sex. We're not talking about HIV.
Right.
And
we have all
because
these
we don't,
dating sites now that are popping up. Like now they want you to you can have a blind date searching this Pokemon game, and you're going to meet somebody, and you're going to, that the object is to get together. Come on now.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff out there.
Yeah, so we need to be armed.
Well, but the thing that I think we need to call out is the stigma. When you talk about breast cancer, yes, people come and bring you dinner and come check on you. You're on the sick and shut in list at church.
Yes.
But when it comes to HIV, because we have so much, to be quite honest, bias and judgment associated with it. How did the person get it? Am I going to get it? Am I, from being near them? There's so much ignorance around HIV. And that's perpetuated in our communities, and I think that's why we need to start talking about it. We need to start talking about what safe sex looks like. We need to start talking about being comfortable in your own skin. I think a lot of, when you talk about the church and checking on people, don't always want to talk about sexual preference. And when we talk about HIV, that's a part of talking about it, because that community is hardest hit when we talk about young Black MSM, especially 20 to 29. So.
We have a caller who has a question for us. Okay, let's see. Now, you guys know that, of course...
Good evening.
Oh, they're gone? Okay.
Yes,
all right.
Good evening. Yes.
I'm not hearing you. Okay.
I'm going to pull my hair back so I can hear.
First time watching the show, great. But I want to know why, with all the information, all the free stuff that people get, that still, like the young lady said, that there's a rise in HIV in Chicago. Why is that? I want to know. Is it just because they don't care, or I would think they don't care more than they don't know about it, because that's what, a lot of information has been out there for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you know what? One comment I need to make, though, is, and I'm glad you called, is that one of the reasons why breast cancer is so successful, it's been out there forever, but they keep it on your mind. They keep it in your eyesight. They talk about, there's not a day that goes by that I don't see in media somewhere something about breast cancer. And that's I think, how they're so successful.
Well, so a couple things I'd like to say. And first, thank you to the caller who called in. Just to clarify, HIV is not on the rise in Chicago. The rise is in specifically the demographic of young African American MSM. That's young African American men who sleep with men. And that's the only area in Chicago where it's rising. The prevalence has been rising. So, and that's to your point about, how breast cancer is out there.
Yes.
The thing is that this is hardest hitting to a certain demographic, and there are social determinants of health that can be a whole nother show when we talk about what it is to be young and Black. On the west side, on the south side, what access you have to health care, what access you have to information. So it's different from breast cancer, because breast cancer affects everyone equally. But when it comes to this, and also the bias and the stigma associated with it, we have certain demographics that are harder hit than others.
But we're just going to push it out there, because I know that heart disease in women is as prevalent, if not more prevalent, than breast cancer. But it's how you put your message out there for people. And sometimes the people who hear it are not necessarily those who need to hear it, but they can hear it because they can pass it on. So it's never in vain for us to do that. So we're going to pick your mind today and get as much information as we can, so that if you're listening, you can, number one, call us like the caller did, and that was great. Number two, you can write down some of the information and pass it on if you would do that. And later in some other shows, once the summer's over, because a lot of people are out and about right now. But once summer's over, we're going to really push for people to let us know here at Chicago Cable Access what you want to discuss, what you want to have more knowledge about, who you would like to see us interview and talk to. And that would be great. And it's interactive, so you can call us at any time. So we're not going to waste any more of your time. We're going to go to the men having sex with men and the population that it's aimed at, this knowledge and what's going on.
Well, one of the things that is happening right now in Chicago that I'm really excited about, and a lot of people in the nonprofit HIV/AIDS community are really excited about, is a new RFA that came out from CDPH. They gave grant funding for a PrEP initiative in the west side and south sides of the city. PrEP is pre-exposure prophylaxis. It's something actually that you can take once a day for those who are high at risk to prevent becoming infected with HIV.
Are you kidding? See,
I'm not kidding.
I hadn't heard that one. Can you repeat that?
So PrEP,
PrEP,
pre-exposure prophylaxis. There's also something called PEP, which is actually for post-exposure. But PrEP is a new drug that's out, and a lot of people in our community don't know about it.
Right.
But for those who are high at risk or at risk, and CDC guidelines definitely talk about those who there's a long list, and I would say go to cdc.gov because I don't want to misquote. So if you meet those qualifications and you're definitely high at risk, there's that option to take PrEP once a day. It's found to be 90+% effective for MSM.
That is wonderful. We're making progress.
We are. The numbers are just a little bit lower for women, but still very effective. They're like 80+%.
That is great. Now we do hear about the morning after, and we hear about all of the other things that are out there. But that one got past me. Now, as a nurse, and as nurses, one of the things that we do, that's why we kind of like to do this show, is because whatever information that we get from people who are knowledgeable in their field about certain things, we certainly pass it on. We are at health fairs. We go and speak at different events, and it's one of the things that we love to do is just pass it on, just be a conduit. And so first of all, where are they going now? Are they still at the county, not the county, Stroger, what's it called now? For
John H. Stroger, CORE Foundation.
Okay, thank you.
CORE Foundation is still, and CORE Foundation was one of the groups that was awarded funding. They are on the west side with Austin CBC. So Austin CBC is located at 4800 West. Can I give that information? Okay, 4800 West Chicago Avenue, and they do HIV testing, and now there'll also be a place where people can go and not only get information about PrEP, but actually get prescriptions for PrEP if they qualify.
You know, that is awesome, because a lot of times if I'm home and I'm watching TV and I'll see something that I didn't know, and I'll say, oh, I didn't know that. And I always keep a pen and paper by me when I'm watching TV, and I'm writing down the contact information, because this is something that I need to know when it's as easy as picking up a phone or going to the computer. And that is just, that's wonderful.
Well, the easiest thing, I have to tell everyone, the easiest thing for you to do if you're interested in PrEP is actually Chicago had a PrEP for Love campaign. It was AIDS Foundation of Chicago, CDPH, Chicago Department of Public Health, and a litany of other groups that were part of this. There was actually a PrEP working group all around getting the word out about PrEP. So some of you might have seen that they already had bus stops with PrEP for Love campaigns. It was on the red line and the green line for a little bit, and there's some bus stops that were included. But it just talks about what it is to share intimacy, spread tingles, spread all these things that you can spread outside of HIV when you're on PrEP. You can actually have intimacy without fear.
Well, I'm glad that you're using this program as a conduit, because I assure you that a lot of people drive, number one, and the different organizations, there are newspapers which people don't buy like they used to, unless it hits you in the face. I would venture to say a lot of people just simply aren't coming in contact with that information, and because it's not on their minds. And so you need to do this at least once or twice a year, or either give us the information and community, you need to call and find out. We're going to give the contact information, write it down, and pass it on. I think that it's our duty to give out this information to the public because we have that interest, and it's your duty to get it and pass it on and use it if you need it for yourself, so that all of us together are fighting this fight.
Yeah.
So it's not the numbers aren't increasing, but the victims are.
Well, actually, people are living longer with HIV, so we're going to have more people who are living with HIV. However, what we're talking about when we talk about prevalence, we're talking about incidence, people who are newly infected with HIV. Most of those numbers are going down in Chicago. Actually, the numbers are going down in Chicago, but when you break down the demographic, African American MSM ages 20 to 29 is what CDPH data just released showed. There's still a slight increase in that group.
Okay. Do we have a caller? Yes, caller?
Yes, I called earlier.
Yes.
I wanted to know about this PrEP. You say it's 90% and a little less for women. Am I correct?
Yes.
Now people are going to go out there and think it's 100% safe because they want to. Not that it is, but they're going to, oh, don't worry, I heard the young ladies on TV. Wouldn't the PrEP and a condom go together to even give it a less chance of spreading AIDS?
The PrEP and the condom work together?
And thank you again, caller, because you're right on point. That's actually something that has been debated lately. For those who are interested, there's plenty out there. If you Google what AIDS Healthcare Foundation actually is, a group that just recently came to Chicago. They're out of California, and their CEO Michael Weinstein has actually been known to argue that same point, which is if PrEP is out, will it give people this misconception that you can just take PrEP and just be out in the world all willy-nilly? And I don't think that's the case. I think a lot of people are understanding it to the point that you do, which is you still need to use condoms. PrEP is effective against HIV, but there are a lot of other STIs out there.
Yes.
There are a lot of other things to be concerned about. So if you're going to use PrEP, you still have to be concerned about other things. It's like, some people, it's debatable to make this comparison, but like you talked about the morning after pill, birth control does not mean
right.
That there aren't other things out.
But people do, and they know, and let's say, okay, they have a lot of events going on, and it's really this dating thing and this meeting people and all of that. And they were just talking, like I said, about the Pokemon game, and now you can meet each other and doing that. And all of this, we don't have statistics on what's going on with all of this. We've got 3 days of Lollapalooza. And I did see that the hospitals were already getting ready for their numbers of people who will be brought in with those problems that you get when you have the alcohol and you drink too much and you're feeling really good. But my point is, when that happens, and it happens a lot, because this is a party city to me, people need to know. And I don't. Is there anywhere else that we can put things for people to see? Because not everybody, takes the bus or the train.
Well, I think what you're saying is, how do we spread this more? How do we let people know about PrEP?
Yes.
And I think that's what we're trying to do even here, is talk about it. Now that you know, and other people who are watching know, they can talk to others about it, spread the word. But then also we need to become comfortable with allowing people to make choices. Right. Because, as you were talking about, kind of a party city, that's some of the spin that's been on this PrEP drug, which is it a party drug? Are these for people who are really, just out here loose and doing whatever? And that's not the case. There's some people who, are responsible and are choosing to be on PrEP because they're making choices, and this is a responsible choice that they want to make to protect themselves. So,
and that's great. They just have to know.
Right.
And that's the whole thing, and that's why I'm so happy that you came today. And we'll have to have you come again, because we do a lot of shows on all of the other things that are going on with us. And we usually do it by the month, like February is heart disease, and then we have diabetes month, et cetera, et cetera. And this is one that's kind of fallen by the wayside, like some of the other cancers. And, you know, I've said before that breast cancer is a great big thing, but there are some cancers that are more prevalent than breast cancers that are not talked about, or because the money isn't there, the funding isn't there.
Well,
and so you guys have some funding now.
I was gonna say, let's not get started on funding because you know, just the state of our state right now. There are a lot of hard-hit agencies who are doing the work who don't necessarily have the funding that they should have to be able to do the work right now.
I think, and you're right about that, but I keep talking about the American Cancer Society because somehow, and this is one of the ways, as well as others, they keep themselves out there so that people are aware.
Right.
And maybe it's a respectable disease, what that is, you know, like it's that.
Well, and that's
HIV.
So unfortunate.
People don't want to talk about it or hear about it.
Because that's exactly the stigma that's associated with it that we need to change. We need to change the way we talk about HIV, which is one of the reasons for recently AIDS Foundation of Chicago and Representative LaShawn K. Ford and a number of other people. Yeah, he's
always
great.
Putting
he's
stuff
great.
Out.
WARP was a part of that, but there were a bunch of people and groups that came together to change the language of the Confidentiality Act in Illinois so that we could have routinized screening of HIV in healthcare settings. We need to get out of even though I've given you numbers about what's happening in Chicago so that we can still be focused and targeted in some ways, we need to start looking at it like any other health issue. Everyone should be screened.
Yes.
Everyone should be screened. It should be something that's regularly done, and just like your doctor tells you, okay, so we're going to draw your blood, we're going to look for this, and this, and we're going to do an HIV test. That's it. Everything is because that's the way we get a handle on this. And that would change the stigma.
First, we have to alert people and get them really interested in it. Right now, we could tell the world, and it was like, I don't need that test.
Well, that's what I'm saying, that we need to routinize it because there's still this stigma attached to it where people think, oh, if you're being tested, you must have done something bad. Like, I just did testing at a church the other day, and I mean, it was a hoot. It was great. It was great, and thank you to the church that allowed me to come in and do testing. They do great work.
Were they hesitant to have the testing done? Only a few people coming in your line for that?
Only a few people came in the line, but you know what? I am so proud of those people who did come in the line, because it takes a strength to stand up to some of the just blatant ignorance of a lot of people in our communities who don't know enough about the infection, don't know enough about the cure. I mean, not the cure, but the treatment.
Right.
And don't know enough about prevention.
Like a stigma, though. It's we have to take that off.
Right.
Somehow we have to separate it. It's nothing. It's an illness like heart disease,
like anything else,
cancer, like anything else. We somehow have to find a way to get it in that category, and it becomes routine, and it's not, you know. And then people will say, "Oh yeah, you know." Like, finally, we have gotten through a lot of information, a lot of people to get their rectal exams and their rectal testing, and that took forever. So we're going to work on that.
Yeah,
it's working. That's what I'm saying.
I hope so.
What I want you to do now is give us some contact information so that when you leave here, and the people who are listening will be sure that they have your number. And when you get the number, people pass it on.
Yes. Okay. So if you're interested in PrEP or the campaign, you can go online to Prep for Love, and I believe it's prepforlove.com. If you're interested in going to, there's places on the west side like Austin CBC for testing. Again, that address is 4800 West Chicago Avenue. And AIDS Foundation of Chicago is another great source. They are, again, the leaders in that Prep for Love campaign along with CDPH. So they are a great access point. And then for healthcare and for other needs. So a lot of the needs of those living with HIV or those who are at risk, we have more than just one need. So there are other resources as well.
Well, I want to thank you so much. Time flies when you're having fun. Really good to have this information. And can they call 311 too? To get the AIDS
they can't call
Foundation
through.
of
No, AIDS
Chicago?
Foundation
No?
of Chicago. You go AIDSchicago.org. I'm
Okay.
sorry, AIDSchicago.org.
Okay, thank you so much, family, for listening, and we will be right back here next month. And I really meant that. Give us a call. Right here, us here, the Chicago Chapter National Black Nurses Association, right here to CAN TV, and let us know what shows you would like to see, what shows you would like to participate in, and get information. In the meantime, thank you so much. Have a great evening. Have a great summer, and be safe out there, people.
Yes.
It's rough. Thank you. We'll see you next month. Bye-bye.